Okay, should we get started?
Yeah, it sounds sensible. I think we're recording it, so I hope that's okay with everybody. If you don't want to ask any questions that would be answered in the live recording, please just let us know because we can answer them privately. But as this is hosting as a webinar, you'll just see Rowena and I and the slides. So if you do ask a question, we just ask that you do it in the Q&A or do it in the chat. So Rowena and I are going to talk to you about patient appeals, how you can get involved with them, why it's a really important part of our work to get involved with, and the difference that you can make to patients and their families. So I'll pass over to Rowena to start the presentation.
Getting my slides moving.
And I'll be managing the chat and the Q&A while Rowena's presenting. What we will do is at the end of each section, we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions. So we'll be keeping an eye on those. But if you have a question as we go along, just please ask.
So many of you, if you've been part of Marrow for a year or longer, you will probably know a little bit about patient appeals already. But if you don't, a patient appeal is when a family of a patient who is looking for a stem cell donor campaigns to recruit new stem cell donors to the register, to raise awareness and or to raise funds to support that work. Patient appeals are incredibly powerful because these are real people going through in an incredibly difficult time, which means that people really want to do something to help them. So it inspires people to join the register, donate, tell someone about the work that we do. And these people that may never have heard of Anthony Nolan or the Stem Cell Register before, so they are incredibly important in helping us grow the register. And Marrow are a huge part of that as well. Marrow help to maximise patient appeals, spread the word in your local area and get more people involved, more people inspired to help. Now, it's important to mention that running a patient appeal doesn't always guarantee a donor for that family, but they do make a huge impact. They get more people on the register, which can help many more people out there waiting for their match. And just to give you an idea of the impact that they can make, last year, 13,000 people joined the register because of a patient appeal, and £65,000 was raised because of patient appeals. So some of you might recognise some of these faces on here because Marrow supported Beers and Katie's appeals last year. All of the people on this page are still looking for their match, and there's been lots of recruitment, awareness and fundraising around these appeals over the last few months. Obviously, recruitment has been a little bit different over the last 6 months with coronavirus. But over the last 6 months, since April, over 12,000 people have joined the register online because they've heard about a patient appeal. And hopefully that shows how important patient appeals are, even when there's things stopping us recruiting in the normal way. They're making sure that people are aware of our work and able to sign up and do something to help. And we're going to talk to you a little bit later about some of the people that you see on this page, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about all of the people that we are supporting with an appeal at the moment and how you guys can get behind it and support them. And we're going to come to that at the end once we talk to you a little bit more about how you can get involved. So the first thing that's really important to know is about consent. And when we're talking about consent here, we're talking about informed permission from the family to share their story. As you can imagine, when families launch an appeal, they are sharing a huge amount of themselves. They are sharing something that's really personal and sensitive to them and being much more out in public than is normal for anyone really to be telling the public about their lives. So it's really important that we respect the story that they're telling and we tell it in the way that they want to tell it as well. So at Anthony Nolan, we make sure that we get documented consent from the family. We talk through all the options and how they want to be involved, how they want to tell their story. And we know that you are amazing representatives in your areas, which means actually often you might hear about a patient appeal before we do. You might see it in your local press, or the family might contact you because they've seen the amazing work that your Marrow group is doing and they want your help. So the important thing to do is, if this happens, is to contact us so we can make sure that we are getting full consent from the family, and then from that point we can support you in running an appeal for that family. So the thing to do is to email us at patientappealtriage@anthonynolan.org and copy in marrow@anthonynolan.org. We'll make sure that you get those email addresses, and this is being recorded, so you will have access to those email addresses. And then we'll talk to the family and make sure that we get that full consent. And this is to protect you, it's to protect us, but most importantly, it's to protect the family as well, and make sure that they can tell the story the way that they want to tell it. So once you email us, this is what we do. We call it a triage process. We have a small group of staff at Anthony Nolan who work really closely with families. Alice is one of them, I'm one of them. So when you email us, we delegate a key contact for that family, a member of staff at Anthony Nolan, who will have an initial conversation with that family, and then they'll stay as their key contact and make sure that they're taken care of and help them maximise their appeal throughout the whole process. And in that first conversation and throughout our relationship with them, we'll make sure that we talk about some of these key things to help them do as much as possible and help them get their story out there as far as possible. The important thing to know is it's really in the hands of the family, and whatever they are comfortable doing, we are letting them know their options and how we can support them. But it's always up to the family how they want to be involved with us, and that can always change at any point as well. So one thing that we support them with is press. We have an amazing press team here at Anthony Nolan. Some of you might be going to the press session this week. Our press team will speak to the family and they will put together a press release, and they'll make sure that the family is happy with that press release, and they'll send that out to media outlets. That might mean getting it in the local paper, getting it on local radio, but we also have had in the past national media coverage as well, including BBC, ITV, Mirror and The Sun, all within the last couple of months. And that's really amazing support for the family, because they don't necessarily have the contacts or the ability or the time to get their story heard by that many people. So we help them maximise their story. One of the other things that we talk about is fundraising, because not everybody is able to join the register, and sometimes people want to join the register and they still want to help, and fundraising is a way that people can do that. Once you've joined the register, obviously you kind of have to wait and see. So fundraising is a way that they can go above and beyond and fund donors on the register. These families are often going through a lot. They don't have a huge amount of time, so we recommend that they set up a Just Giving page, and that means that their networks, their friends, their community can do fundraising, make a donation and support more donors on the register. And we'll always be there to support the people who want to help in that way. And then there's the big one, register development, which is where you guys come in. You guys are part of all of these things, but we always make sure that we tell families about the amazing work that you guys do in Marrow. So in terms of recruitment, we set them up with an online link so they can encourage people to join the register online, and we'll support them in making lots of opportunities online for people to join the register. We tell them about our work in schools and how we can speak to the schools that are in their area, organise recruitment events, and how you as Marrow can help spread the word in your area and maximise their appeal in areas that they're not in. And then we always make sure that we talk about our patient services. It's something really important. It's something that you can talk to families about if you're ever in contact with families. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about what they do on the next slide. I'm not sure which day it is, but you will have a chance this week to attend a webinar on the patient services team. So you can have a full hour finding out all about the amazing work that they do. It's a really above and beyond service that we do here at Anthony Nolan. Patients can get in touch with us anytime with our specialist patient team over the phone or email, and they'll offer advice and support and information. We have loads of information resources on our website, which I recommend you go and have a look at if you haven't already. It's all over our website. There's downloadable booklets, there's podcasts that you can listen to hear a little bit more about patient experience. We also give families the opportunity to talk to other families who are going through a similar thing through our forum, our Facebook page. And then we have services in a clinical setting as well. So we have our clinical nurse specialists who support patients through the journey. So if you do hear from a family, never be afraid to point them in the direction of the patient team. They're there to help. If you get asked questions, please do point people towards patient services. I'm going to hand over to Alice now.
Cool, thanks. Just if anyone's got any questions on anything that Rowena went over, if you just want to pop it in the chat, give you a couple of seconds, and otherwise I'll move on to next part of the slides. No, I take it Rowena covered absolutely everything there then. So I'm going to move on to talking about specifically Marrow getting involved with recruitment. So obviously we are here to support you. We're here to support all the work that you do on campus in the best way that we can. So those things can be liaising with families. So as Rowena talked about, the contact that we have with families, we make sure that they have a single point of contact. So if there's any questions you have about any of the work that we're doing, we will be the people that do liaise with the families, make sure that the families know about all the amazing work that you're doing. One of the things that is just fantastic about having Marrow involved with patient appeals is being able to go back to the family and tell them that we have a network of students all across the UK that are supporting their quest to find a stem cell donor. The impact that has on the family, don't underestimate just how positive that is for that family to hear. We will also help you with supporting events and dealing with press. I know there's been cases where people have had, Marrow Grapes have had quite a large event, and we've been able to provide you with support, whether it's with our on-the-ground volunteers that we have in the local area that are really experienced, that can come and support your event, or it might even be a staff member. Something that I don't think can be underestimated with patient appeals is what a sensitive subject area is to work in. It's something that we're really aware of, and we know that we have the support from each other, and like I say, we're there to support you as well. So we would support you with anything that is sensitive around a patient appeal as well. Moving on to about tips to make your events successful. Really important, making sure that volunteers are aware of the appeal. Sometimes it can feel really short notice. It can feel a sense of urgency, which I think is what it can be really enjoyable about working on appeals, is that sense of urgency that we're doing something immediate, but it can be an issue with volunteers, getting volunteers to support the event. I think with any kind of general recruitment events, it's something that I've always said to the groups that I've supported when they're talking about when to plan the event, and often the best time to plan that event is when you can get the maximum numbers of volunteers to support that. Prepare to have large numbers of recruits. I would always sooner plan to be absolutely inundated and then to have to contingency plan what we're going to do if we are quieter than usual. I have had occasions, one in particular was at Chester University, and we had 300 people come and register. We ran out of supplies. We didn't have enough volunteers. It was absolutely manic. It was incredibly enjoyable. I was absolutely exhausted afterwards. We could have made that a lot easier for ourselves and a lot smoother process for those people that were coming up and registering. Sure, it looks great if you've got a massive queue of people coming to register, but if people are short on time, you could potentially lose donors. Also making your event successful in terms of communication. So make sure you communicate with us, with the Triage team, with the Marrow team, and with press. and just prepare and support the volunteers that are there on the day. Be aware that one role that you might have if you are planning the event and being the lead on it is organising people, not actually getting involved in the registration, just actually organising where people are going to be on the day, signposting people to where they need to go. The more you prepare, the better the event will be. And to move on the slides, please, Jorina. So I've had to slightly change this slide. So thinking about location, we were talking about getting creative, initially thinking about getting creative with where you might go, but I think this year in particular, for the first half of the year, we need to be creative thinking about where you're going to be in terms of social distancing. Make sure you do attend the compulsory session about digital data capture and events during COVID. We need to be really careful that we do adhere to those guidelines. So get creative in where you can set up. Think about where you can be, where people can make appointments. This year, more than ever, planning is going to be really important. Getting the word out beforehand so that you have more of an idea about how many people you are going to expect at your event. Again, with COVID, we will be saying about, you know, what advantage can you take off campus? Is there a local college that you could work with us with to go in and run a recruitment event? That's not completely out of the question. So if you do think that is an idea, then do get in contact with us. But more likely it's going to be looking at on-campus events, you know, clubs and societies that can support you. Are there clubs and societies that are quite a natural fit for Marrow, or even a natural fit for that patient? It might be the patient has a particular interest, is from a particular group that might have a club or society on campus that will be able to support you. The more people you can get involved, especially in spreading the word in advance of the event, the better. And then look to the future. Events that are already happening. Is there any events that you could get a free stand at that you'd be able to set up and run a patient appeal event? But do always let us know if you're targeting off campus. It's really important. Briefly mentioned about education program and appeals. One of the things that we are finding is really popular at the moment in terms of managing what we're doing in terms of social distancing is working with schools with education and appeals. So like I say, if there's anything that you think would be an idea, just please ask us. We're open to have conversations around what we can do and what we can support you with, along with your local schools and colleges. The resources that you need, look at your own personal contacts. A great example of an event, I don't think this was a patient appeal event, but it was an event that we ran up at Aberystwyth University, and the committee there were amazing at constantly calling out to clubs and societies, Facebook, internal emails, using personal contacts to really keep a momentum throughout the day, and keeping that momentum kept the volunteers really engaged as well. Ask the Marrow team as well if they have any leads. It might be that we've had an inquiry that we could put you in touch with. And any other groups you could ask. So are there any other Marrow groups within a short distance of your university? Again, probably check with us in terms of social distancing and what we're advising about on-campus activity at the moment, but think about the future for that. And like I've said, we can always look at our local volunteers for support. We have some really experienced volunteers that are more than happy to support patient appeal events, and absolutely love coming to help you. To move on, Rena. Cool. So I have shamelessly pinched these slides from York Marrow. It was a great example of working with a patient appeal. So this was York Marrow and Alex's appeal. Move on the slide. So Alex's story. Alex was a student at York University, diagnosed with ALL and had chemotherapy but relapsed, and was told he needed a donor in June last year. So we launched the appeal across loads of social media platforms, and it's great to be able to report that Alex found a match during late September 2019, so late last year. So how did this come through, and how did York Marrow get involved? So it was actually a college tutor that heard about the appeal and got in contact with Anthony Nolan. So the Marrow team put the tutor in touch with York Marrow before a match was found, and also a contact with a friend of Alex that was studying at the university. And we supported York Marrow to start organising the event. So this is quite a typical way in the way patient appeals might come about to us. Probably particularly lucky there was a college tutor that heard about the appeal, so he could put them in touch with York Marrow. But it's a good example of an email that we would get into the patient appeal triage inbox. What was really important and what was done incredibly well was the publicity. So the more publicity you can get, and what we always find is the higher up the chain that you can get that publicity out at. So using tutors to use the all faculty email, using an online link, using the intra-college newsletters and emails, using TV screens throughout the university, tutors, using volunteer and training and freshers events. The more people that hear about the appeal, the more volunteers you're going to get, and the more people you're going to have coming to register. There is a time with publicity as well, that you don't want to do it too far in advance because you don't want people to forget about it. But as we said with volunteers, the more notice they have, the more likely they are to be able to come. But definitely the more promotion you can do, the more people you can get involved with promotion, tutors, other students, the better. So at York Marrow, they ran recruitment stands across 2 campuses. Now, this is something that happens quite a lot, especially in universities that have got dual sites or even multi-sites. Running on as many campuses as possible is a really good idea. If it is going to make you incredibly thin on the ground, I would recommend running at one site and then moving to another. Running simultaneously is great at creating a buzz, great for publicity. You only need to put out, one time, one date and 2 locations, but make sure you don't put yourselves too thin on the ground. York had volunteers from Marrow, but also Anthony Nolan as well, because we have a great volunteer network up in York. They did lecture shout outs on the day. Again, if you're doing that in an online forum, that's perfectly great to do, especially if you've got the online link to sign up, or if you can encourage people to attend a location. And again, just really promoting through emails and word of mouth as well, getting people to tell people that they've registered or where you are. So the results were fantastic. 157 people recruited from donor recruitment events. And I think we can't forget those people that would not have registered if York Marrow hadn't got involved. This is why you are so, so important to our patient appeals. One of the things that we don't know is, there's potentially hundreds more, because people would have heard about the appeal. They would have seen the press around it. They would have gone online and registered. We are much better now at being able to feed back to you about how many people have registered online. The best thing about Marrow supporting patient appeals is recruiting targeted donors. We know that we need to recruit more young men, more young people. If we're recruiting with yourselves on university campuses, we know we're going to hit that demographic. And it really helps us, because when we put an appeal out on social media ourselves, we are actually more likely to get older people register. We want people your age. We want people on university campuses to register. And it really, really helps us to make sure that we are recruiting the best possible donors for patients. And you make such a real difference to Alex and other patients. Rowena said at the start that we can't guarantee that appeal will find a match for the patient that we're working with. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do that, because all the appeals that we're running for one patient might go on to find a donor for somebody else. And I think that's exactly why we do the work that we do. York reported back that it helped them make useful connections as well with faculty and with volunteers. So volunteers that really enjoy the experience and will come along to other events in the future, and faculty that are able to support the work that York Marrow do. It's fantastic to get involved with appeals, especially if it's one from your local area. I thought this was Rowena. I can't see who it says is delivering it at the bottom, but tips from Marrow Grapes about what to know before starting an appeal. So how should you act? Be passionate, be enthusiastic. If you're passionate, enthusiastic, people are going to want to hear what you've got to say, but be considerate. I think some people, when we run an appeal, can feel that there is some pressure. There absolutely has to be no pressure when people register. It has to be their own decision. Talk to us and tailor your words that you use on social media. Make sure that you're thinking how it would feel being someone that was on the other side of this appeal reading it. Talk to us about the tone. We will have press releases for patient appeals as well, so make sure that you use the kind of language that we're using as well, because we know that we have had that contact with the family and everything's been signed off and they're happy with it, and we want to support those families. So what can happen? I think I've alluded to it. Patient appeals can be emotionally taxing. It's something we're really aware of and something that we want to ensure that we support you with. So the patient services team are here, like Rena said earlier. Make sure you signpost any patients or their families onto our patient services team, but we're also here for you as well. If you are contacted by family members or friends of patients, it might be a post on your social media post thanking you for what you've done. That's absolutely fine. But if it's any more contact, that they want to know any more information, just let us know so we can support you. Patient appeals can lead you to be talking to a wider range of people than you might ordinarily be used to. So think about how you're going to talk to that diverse range of audiences. This is actually something that is, you know, fantastic, and it's a great opportunity, and definitely something that can be drawn on with appeals, but also if you're looking at it in your university career and your ongoing career as well. How can you get the best outcome? So obviously, if we're looking at an outcome, that's recruiting as many possible donors as possible. Plan, prepare, make it a success. Make sure you contact us. I can't emphasize that enough. We have our press team that can support you. We have all of us here that can support you. And as well, piggyback on events that are taking place at the university. If you piggyback on the back of events, it's less organising you have to do, can leave you more time to organise one really nice big event with our support. That's it from me.
Have we had any questions on that last section?
I can't see any, so I think if anyone has any questions, do you want to pop them in the chat? If not, we can move on.
Feel free to ask at any point, and we'll come to it as soon as we get to a next break spot. Even if you kind of think of it in the moment, pop it in as soon as you think of it. So I'm going to talk next about all the other things to think about when you're working on a patient appeal, and all the other ways that you can support the family and Anthony Nolan during a patient appeal. So I will be talking about press, social media, and fundraising. Firstly, press is really important. It's an amazing way that you can support the family in getting their story out further. You have the unique selling point that you are a local group, you have local connections, and local media may want to cover your story, which means that you can get their story heard in your area. And it's also an amazing opportunity to help more people hear about the stem cell register and about your marrow group as well. The other thing that's really helpful is sometimes when media cover patient appeal stories, they don't always have all the facts. So if you are doing press around what you're up to in the local area to support a patient appeal, it means that you can control the narrative, make sure that they are talking about joining the register in the right way and giving all the facts about what it means. You're experts in that, so you're great people to represent us in that way. So the impact of doing press, I've already mentioned, you're supporting the family and getting the word out there, and they really appreciate that. But you'll also increase the number of people coming to your events if you're running an event. So think about what kind of press that you can do in advance of an event. If you're not able to do a recruitment event, you can still do a press release and talk about the awareness that you're raising, and you can signpost to your online recruitment link and get people signing up that way as well. It can boost your fundraising, which is something that people who are 31 plus can do. Obviously, if you're going out to press, not everybody's going to be under 30. So think about whether you want to put your Just Giving link in there as well. You all have Just Giving pages. Speak to your fundraising coordinator if you don't know what your link is, and you can get that added to your press releases. And it's also raising awareness. It makes sure that people know about the stem cell register and they know about your group and what you're doing in the area. So just some simple tips to think about when you are doing press. Firstly, as your press officers in your group will know, Ella is on hand. Ella is our press officer and she's always on hand to help with any press questions that you have, advice. She's a pro. So chat to her about any ideas that you have or any questions that you have about trying to get to what you're doing in the local paper. She also has template press releases, which you should all have access to. I think you have them on SharePoint. So use those template press releases as well. Feel free to run them by Ella. Then think outside the box about how you can get your story heard. Are there any kind of press opportunities that aren't your local paper but are on site at your uni? Do you have a campus paper? Is there someone in your group who does blogs or vlogs, or knows someone on campus who has a big blog that you can get it published in? Think about if you have any unique selling points. Do you have any connections to local celebrities, or are there any alumni from your university you can contact to try and gain a little bit more press around your story? And then fundraising. Like I've mentioned before, fundraising is an amazing way for people to continue supporting if they have already joined the register or they're not able to join the register for any reason. And one of the reasons it's particularly important around patient appeals is when you are working on a patient appeal, you might reach people that you don't normally reach. You might be doing local press, you might get a lot more interest from the local community, and that might be a little bit more of an older audience. So it's good to think about offering them a way that they can help. So there's a few things that you can do that we'd recommend. One of the things is when you're holding a recruitment event, take the opportunity of having lots more people at your event than you'd usually have, and add a little something onto your event. You can delegate that to somebody else on your committee. See if your fundraising coordinator wants to get involved and make sure they're aware of all your patient appeal events and they can take responsibility for that. We can send you buckets and collection tins so people can just pop a donation in if they want to while they're there, or you can hold a raffle or sell cakes. So once someone signed up to the register or had a chat about the register and raising awareness, you can point them in the direction of buying a cake, which is a really easy sell. The other thing is you can do some fundraising online. I mentioned it already, you all have Just Giving pages, so feel free to direct people to your Just Giving pages so they can donate and fund a donor on the register. Or you can also use Facebook Donate. I don't know if many of you have used this, but I do know in the past, Marrow Groups have had quite a lot of success. I think the year before last, Marrow raised over £1,000 using Facebook Donate buttons, and it's really easy. When you're making a post on Facebook, it offers you the chance to add a donate button. Just add a donate button when you're sharing a post about a patient appeal and select Anthony Nolan as the charity, and people can donate directly. I also recommend when you're sharing a patient appeal post with a Facebook donate button, ask your members to share it. You're always talking to your volunteers and people at your uni, but have you shared this with all your members, family members and their friends outside of your uni, and give it a little bit of extra reach? And remember, the fundraising team are always on hand to help. You guys will have contacts with either Kira, Gemma or Lindsay in our fundraising team. So if you have any questions, have a chat to them about fundraising at your patient appeal events, and we can get you materials sent out as well. Buckets, collection tins, posters, balloons, all sorts of things. And then there is social media. Social media at the moment is more important than ever, especially with people not being able to go out and about and being able to run large scale events. So think about how you can get the word out about this patient appeal on social media. I've already mentioned sharing the post on your own social media and trying to get that seen by more people who are just in your group by reaching out to friends and families and trying to encourage people to share it. I recommend when you start an appeal, follow the appeal Facebook group. Sometimes families set up a Facebook page for the appeal. So there is a Facebook page for Beer's appeal, for example, called Help Beer Now. I recommend following it. It means that you can share their appeal and maximise it, help them reach even more people. Have a think about who you can talk to in your local area, who can help you share the appeal even wider. So you might have some Facebook or Instagram groups which are campus specific, overheard in the library, anything like that, halls pages. They're already established, they already have an audience, so can you ask them if they can share the appeal for you and reach more people? One thing that you should always think about is just being careful with your language. You know this from all your donor recruitment experience, is that when someone joins the register, they could be a match for anybody. So be careful in how you're sharing patient appeals and try and reflect the language that we've used and the family have used in our posts. It's important to say that they could be a match for somebody like the patient. So people don't think that they are only signing up to be a match for that patient. So in a second, we are going to talk through some appeals that you can get supporting right now. These are people who are searching for their match right now. But firstly, a couple of things for how you can get started. Firstly, the Marrow team will let you know when there's new appeals that are launching. They'll send them out to you, especially if they're in your local area. You can find posters and digital assets on SharePoint for all the patient appeals that we are working with at the moment. So go on SharePoint and grab those materials and start sharing them. We will share new appeals and updates on the Comms and Campaigns Facebook group. So you'll hear the latest there. So we're going to talk you through some of the patients that you can start to think about how you can support. Oh, questions.
One question come in. So Stella has asked, Rowena, I think this is one for you, that the revised yesterday and socially distanced donor recruitment training not to take cash donations from the public due to the pandemic. So what about bucket collections? Would they still be recommended at patient appeals at the moment?
Oh, good question. I will check about that because it might be that you can isolate that cash, so we can check that and get back to you. I'll ask one of the Marrow team to confirm that. We are looking into contactless payments though, with less gatherings at the moment. It probably won't be this term, but the idea is that we want to move to contactless and help you guys take contactless payments more.
God, that was the one question that we had. If anyone's got any more, I don't know if you want to ask.
Oh, the other thing just on that, sorry, to add to that is, I mentioned Just Giving pages as well. So maybe rather than buckets, you can have your Just Giving page link. You can get QR code generators. So if you put your Just Giving page link into a QR generator website, it'll give you a QR code. So if people want to pay for things, they can just scan the QR code or log into your Just Giving page and make a donation. Just Giving donations start as small as £2. So it's quite an expensive cake, but that's okay. People often do. If you ask people for a minimum donation of £2, you'll find that people will end up paying £5 for a cake or buy 5 cakes. Any more?
Yeah, I think that was it for the moment. So
cool. Okay, over to you for the first one, Alice.
Cool. So this appeal really took off online. So this is Rain, who just turned 1 and diagnosed with primary HLH, and he urgently needs a bone marrow transplant to survive. We've had over 8,000 people that have registered using Rain's link alone. So it's really showing that Rain's story is connecting with people.
This is Evie, and Evie is 8. She's from Whitby in the northeast, and she's been diagnosed with severe aplastic anemia and needs a transplant. Her appeal has also gained loads of traction, and people are really connecting with her appeal. It's had lots of media coverage, so it might be recognisable to people if you're sharing this appeal. And over 2,000 people, or around 2,000 people, have joined online because of Evie's appeal.
So here you see Shahira. She's from South London and she has a rare immunodeficiency disorder. She's Bangladeshi, so I think you probably do know that because of her heritage, it means finding her the best possible match is much harder. So her family are causing on more people from South Asian descent to join the register for Shahira.
And then there's Veer. Veer's appeal has been running for around a year now. And when the family first got in touch with us, he has Fanconi anemia. And when the family first got in touch with us, they were told that they would have about 3 years before he'd need a transplant. But recently they've had the devastating news that his transplant has become a lot more urgent recently, and now it's a matter of finding a donor as soon as possible. Again, Veer is of Indian heritage, which means his chances of finding a match are not as good, and so we need to share his appeal and reach more people from South Asian backgrounds.
Yeah, continuing with the theme about people from certain heritages finding it more difficult to find a potential donor. This is Katie. So Katie's a student at Wolverhampton University. She's studying nursing. Katie had a transplant in 2013, but really sadly, her cancer returned. I've got a quote from Katie here that says, "I know that it will be harder for me to find a match because of my ethnicity. So I really want to raise awareness and encourage more Black people to join the register. I want people to know that it's a simple procedure if you're found to be a match for somebody. It's really important to be sharing all of these appeals."
And this is Andy. Andy has myelofibrosis, and back in the summer, his consultant said that he would have 16 months to live if he doesn't find a match. And they are searching for his match at the moment. They are doing lots of fundraising. They're spreading the word in the workshop area, and they have connections to Nottingham and Sheffield University. So if you're from either of those universities, have a think about if there's anything that you could do, and the family will be really keen to support and share this work.
And this is Mark. I've been in quite close contact with Mark's daughter Lauren. She also has a brother as well. They're all early 20s. Mark's in his 50s. Mark's heritage is dual nationality. He's mixed English and Chinese. So again, for Mark, it's more difficult for him to find a potential donor. So sharing Mark's appeal would be really appreciated by the family.
Do we have any final questions?
You can ask it in the Q&A or pop it in the chat.
Mm-hmm. While we wait for any final questions, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have any further questions, feel free to get in touch with me or Alice or the Marrow team, and we can support you in getting involved with any of these appeals. It looks like we have a question.
So can I have the link for the comms and campaigns Facebook page? Yes.
We
Don't
can
have it right now. Anything else? Have any of you got any stories about being involved in any patient appeals at all you'd like to share? If you have, you can pop it in chat, and I think we can probably promote you to a panelist so you can tell a little bit about what you've done. If you haven't, that's fine.
I see another question from Hannah. Our Just Giving page expired at the end of last academic year. Do we get a new one for this year? Yes, we do. Would you mind typing in the chat which group you're from, and then I can make sure that we send that new page to you? Great, we'll get that sent to you.
Cool. So I guess if there's no more questions, comments, stories you'd like to share, I think we can probably end it there.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Oh, no, one more question. Is it okay to run events with patients that are working with charities like DKMS? Come to us first. Ooh. Where's that gone? So I just completely lost the page. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's why it's really important to come with us first. That one of the things that we do is we just make sure that we don't duplicate effort. So if you come to us first, we can let you know who's leading on the appeal and what the relationship is like. So again, just really important to come to us first. I think that might be that.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.